Dead.
Oh, good.
Greetings, and welcome to WANA Live, the reading series of the Writers Association of Northern Appalachia. I'm your host, Damian Dressick, and this is your other host,
Christina Fasonic. How are you tonight, Damian?
I'm well, thank you, Christina. I'm trying to get some new writing done now that the semester has expired.
Thankfully, yes. So it was a beautiful day. Was it hard to sit at your desk and get work done with all the nice breeze outside and the sunshine?
Nope, I kept the blinds down. I wouldn't have known one way or the other.
That's a way to do it. So we have a new writer on tonight, and let me tell our audience a little bit about him. Dave Newman is the author of 7 books, including The Same Dead Songs, a memoir of working class addictions that just came out just like last week, I think, and East Pittsburgh Downlow. Both of those books are from J.New Books. His collection, The Slaughterhouse Poems from White Gorilla Press in 2013, was named one of the best books of the year by Elle magazine. His poems, essays, and stories have appeared in magazines around the world, including Ambit in the UK, Tears in the Fence, also the UK, Gulfstream Belt, and the legendary Nerve Cowboy. He appeared in the PBS documentary narrated by Rick Sebak, yay, Rick, about Pittsburgh writers. Winner of numerous awards, including the Andre Dubus Novella Prize. He lives in Trafford, Pennsylvania, the last town in the Electric Valley, with his wife, the writer Lori Jakiela, and their 2 children. Yay, Lori! After a decade of working in medical research, he currently teaches in the creative and professional writing program at the University of Pittsburgh-Greensburg. So let's bring him on.
Okay.
Hello, Dave.
Greetings, Dave.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for making time to be here.
So you're reading from your brand new book tonight, right?
Yes, I'm going to read a little section about scoring crack. I think the only thing that you need to know is that it's kind of set around my dining room table, and a guy who's drunk and on cocaine, but also on crack, is telling a story about having just scored crack a few hours ago, how crack does not work.
So, wait, what? He's what?
He's just scored crack. He's on cocaine and crack, but he's denying that crack works. So he's telling the story about how he scored crack just a few hours previously.
It sounds like it's time to score more crack, I think is where this
right.
I was going to say.
That was the original title for the whole book.
All right. Well, we'll be back.
All right. Okay to jump in? He started back on his story, which is a recap of a fairly typical Friday, which was trauma and addiction. In his story, time drove on somewhere in the late evening. With a baggie of blow, Anthony circled back to the dive bar. He ordered and drank and watched TV and ordered and drank and sometimes used the bathroom to toot. The basketball game on TV played and provided purpose. Anthony started talking to a guy he either knew and couldn't remember or had never met, probably a stranger. Lots of strangers passed through his life now. The people he knew pushed him away, or he ran at the sight of their faces. He shared a line with this familiar stranger in the bathroom. This guy said he could get some crack. Anthony said to us now, "I don't get crack," and laughed. Not much to get with crack. Little fire, big breath, elation, come down, repeat until dead. I drank another beer. I thought, crack doesn't work. It sounded believable, a fact mixed in with Anthony's conviction, though I had tried crack years ago and it had worked just fine in an unfine way, the burst of light disappearing faster than it came, then a throb in my head so painful during come down that I decided I would like to never try crack again. Anthony paused and said, "What was I talking about?" The crack without crack still managed to do something to Anthony's brain. The familiar stranger drove and talked calmly for someone so high, but never pretending to be sober, to lack a buzz, conscious of the speed limit and cops while avoiding main roads. Anthony sat and worried, freaked out, really. His thumb throbbed from the heat of the pipe, but this was internal, a groove in his brain going deeper or closing itself off. He stared out the window, seeing what he felt. Abandoned houses and houses that looked abandoned, and windows made of plywood cruised by like ghosts, like souls too tired to walk to a safer neighborhood, like souls hoping to die and come back to die again. A mill without smoke, a hospital where people stood outside the emergency room smoking cigarettes, a homeless man wearing a sandwich board. You ever see anything like that? Anthony said to me, to my wife. We kept listening. The road in his story continued, one painful bump after another. The other guy, the driver, the guy with the crack, maybe a crackhead, maybe not, whatever. He reached across Anthony for the glove compartment. I anticipated Anthony's next remark. He was going for his crack pipe, I said. No, Anthony said. He was going for his gun. He was going for his crack pipe, I said. It felt important to hang on to reality. I said, you saw him put the crack pipe in the glove compartment. I said, now he wanted it back. And I made my face so it backed up my stance on crack pipes and glove compartments versus glove compartments and handguns. Nope, Anthony said, gun. Maybe you shouldn't be smoking crack, my wife said, but she said it with kindness. Good point, Anthony said and laughed, but it was a gun. It was not a gun, I said. It was a crack pipe. The familiar stranger continued fiddling with the glove compartment, one hand on the steering wheel, eyes focused intensely on the road. Before anything could be decided, before any shots were fired or puffs were taken, Anthony opened the passenger side door and rolled from the car. The car cruised along at 20 or so miles per hour, he guessed. He hit the pavement and rolled, but barely felt the road, the stones. Somehow nothing broke. Somehow nothing bled. He got up and ran. He ran until he found a house with a yard and a pine tree, and he hid underneath the branches. Pine needles pressed into his skin. He could barely breathe. Maybe they smoked more than a couple puffs. Probably smoked more than a couple puffs. Definitely smoked more than a couple puffs. The more Anthony considered the night, the more crack he might have actually inhaled. The drive might have been longer with more detours to smoke crack. All the stuff they put in there, not the cocaine, but the chemicals, the meth or rat poison or whatever, had damaged his lungs. He knew he'd never breathe right again. Under the tree, Anthony closed his eyes and tried to die. He willed his heart to stop beating and his lungs to refuse air. Death did not come. His lungs cleared. He crawled to the edge of the tree and, like a scout, like a man looking for the enemy, waited. The guy driving the car turned around and slowly drove the street. Anthony could see the headlights, the junky yellow car. He was looking for you, I said. He was hunting me, Anthony said, serious, not blinking those bubble eyes. He was not hunting you, I said. My wife said, if I cooked you something, would you eat? I think maybe I would, Anthony said. My wife stood, but did not move to the kitchen.
So every year, Pantone has a color of the year. Mm-hmm. You're aware of this? So I'm thinking this 2023, Junkie Yellow, as inspired by Dave Newman.
Right, I appreciate that. That'll go a little bigger with the kids.
You get your floor done in that color, right?
Right, totally.
Color.
Yeah, we'll call it Junkie Yellow.
Right.
No, that's fun stuff. I mean, you know.
Right.
I hate to say this, but I knew it was a gun.
Right. You're sticking with the gun?
Oh, yeah. No, it's a gun.
Right.
Fun. Yeah. No. I could hear Lori. I could hear Lori saying, Everything that she said in this story.
Oh, me too, actually. I can hear her very, very much.
She's like cooking the whole way through the book. It's just like there's a crisis, and she's in the kitchen. It's like her jam.
I love the line "repeat until dead." That was
Right.
that wonderful combination of inevitable and yet it's completely caught me off guard. That was fun.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I think that's the whole thing with hard drugs is that, you know, they seem fantastic until they're not fantastic anymore. And sometimes some people don't ever have that realization.
I believe you said just fine in an unfine way.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's the allure, though. And also the, you know, you know, people get high and then they come down and they want that terrible feeling to go away. So they get high again and over, rinse and repeat.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I think, you know, it's the world we live in, this world that you used to have to do drugs to have that feeling. And now you can have it with the internet or with your phone, or it's just like, oh shit, I've wasted all this time. What am I going to do? I'm going to go back to the thing that caused me to waste time.
Oh yeah. That whole doom scrolling thing, right?
Right. Yeah, totally. Right.
Oh. So what was the impetus behind this book? I mean, what gave you this idea or made you want to write this?
You know, I found I kind of write things and set them aside for a long time and just kind of circle back to them. And so I wrote this when I was in my kind of mid to late 30s and just had a draft of it laying around. And I just thought, because I'm doing some drugs with Anthony during the book, and that didn't sound very appealing to me to publish at that, to try to publish at that point in time in my life. So I just kind of kept working on it. I set it aside and kept working on it and set it aside. And I guess I just got old enough and far enough away from hard drugs that I felt comfortable publishing something about it without having people come up to me after readings and ask me to get into rehab or anything like that.
Oh yeah. Well,
or hey, do you want to go to the bathroom? I've got
right, exactly.
Or are you holding? Right.
Right.
So, well, and I was going to ask that question. I mean, I've written a lot of personal things where people come up and go, and how are you doing now? And I feel like I'm so estranged from the person who wrote that book or that essay that it's, you know, it's kind of a difficult question to ask because it's almost like that's a third person now or a second person. So how do you handle that? Have you talked about that much? Or
no, really, the book's just come out, so I haven't done a lot of readings on it. I used to always joke, you know, Jakiela, my wife, Lori Jakiela, writes memoir, and her poems are mostly autobiographical, and I write poems and fiction and stuff. And I always like why am I like the person with the blue-haired ladies come up to afterwards and want to talk to my fiction stories like I'm a drug addict, and they like you're telling them their stuff's true and they're fine with you. They're like, oh, she's so great, she's in such a good place.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean,
perceptions.
It is, and how some people really feel like I don't know. You do become a character in your own writing when you're writing memoir because you're very aware that obviously you're writing about you from the past, even if you were kind of in that scene at the time when you started the draft. Was it startling to sort of look back on that time period through your own words?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I think one thing, like, you know, I haven't written a lot of memoir. I've published some essays and I've drafted another memoir, but just there's something like a finalizing factor to it that doesn't happen when you write fiction, even if you're writing autobiographical fiction, because I think you're more comfortable to, you know, obviously go along whatever river that takes you. If something more interesting comes up in fiction, you take that path, even if it didn't happen. But when you're like writing about something that's true and you have to stay by those rules, it kind of gives you a real final picture of this particular moment, you know, that sometimes when you get further away from it, you feel very different about it.
Oh yeah, so something that seems so insightful at the time, you look back on it and you're like, really though?
Right. Yes. None of my bad experiences were quite as profound as they seemed at the time.
Yes.
Do you think we can take a look at the cover, Dave?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. So,
is that right? There we go.
The Same Dead Songs. That is such a cool cover. I love it.
And where can people find this book in the Pittsburgh area?
It's all over the internet. I don't know if anyone carries in Pittsburgh or not. Caliban usually carries my books, but I'm not sure if they're still. I know they're cutting way back on their hours and everything, so I'm not sure if they do or not.
Well, and I think that I can say this, that we will all be at some point at the festival in Pittsburgh this Saturday, right?
That's right. Yeah.
And
Totally.
I plan on being there in the morning, at least. Damien, I think you'll be there in the morning.
In the morning?
Morning-ish.
Oh, yeah.
Morning, early afternoon.
Early afternoon, yeah. And I think we'll probably be running around the poetry tent, and I suspect that we'll see you there as well.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely going to see, I think Jakiela's there, and Jane McCafferty's reading first thing in the morning, which is awesome.
A lot of good people are reading on Saturday, and so I think we're all looking forward to that, and sort of reconnecting to our favorite writers. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm excited it's in kind of one place this year. You don't have to run around as much.
Last year it was broken up all over like one area, and I couldn't remember where anything was.
Yeah, totally same. I got hot at one point and just went home.
And that's how you ended up in that bar watching the basketball game doing that blow.
Right, exactly.
That's a kind of poetics.
I'll be running a blow tent at this one on a theological seminary.
Anyways, well, thank you for coming on. This book sounds awesome.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Dave. That was a wonderful reading. I really liked the work.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it.
I made a joke, but actually, the scene with the basketball watching.
Right.
That was really nice writing. I love the simplicity, the bare bonesness of it is exactly the way to at least it felt so authentic to me.
Oh, thank you.
Really. We got comments. I'm sorry. We had comments.
You put those up?
Yeah. Bart is a regular reader. Bart is a top shelf reading Newman. Love the book.
That's Bart. Bart's awesome.
And Greg Clary is saying, reading your description of Anthony's takeover of your basement while your family is upstairs trying to be normal rings so true. Craziness becomes accepted behavior.
Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's such Bart and Greg, both great writers, and Greg's such an awesome photographer.
Oh, yeah, we love them. And Greg's work, actually, his photography appeared in the inaugural Journal of Appalachian Lit. We were very happy to include his work.
He's had like this post-retirement artistic blossoming.
Oh, I know. It's amazing. So, yeah. In fact, I met Greg for the very first time at a writing retreat.
Okay.
So there you go.
West Virginia writing retreat? Or?
No, it was at Fernwood. It was this small private writing retreat, and Greg happened to be there, and that's how I met him, even though he was sort of a colleague at Clarion. So
okay, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. So, well, that's it. Good night, everybody, and thanks again
next week
on the show. And we will see you all next week, same time, same wherever you are located.
All right.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.